Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of WNBL iTV. We are almost halfway through the season and things are heating up both on and off the court. I'm joined as I am every week by Laurie Chiswick, and Laurie, really the season's poised at a fascinating spot I think at the moment.
Well Darren, I think looking at the results this week and in the past, I think we almost need to name this season comeback season. There have been that many comebacks this year, and this week was no different. Yeah,
it really was remarkable. We will be looking back at what happened last week in round 8 and also previewing, of course, what's coming up in round 9. And as you said, Laurie, a couple of comebacks from last week we really need to talk about. But what we'll also be doing is catching up with Kayla Francis and also Elise Penaluna and Catherine Murphy at the news desk a little bit later on. But make sure you stay in contact with our Facebook page and also our Twitter site, or not our Twitter site. I'm mucking that up, aren't I, Laurie? We've got to get out there on the tweet and get involved and be interactive with the WNBL. Make sure you like our Facebook page as well. And, well, I can tell you, there's a lot on there, including a viewer poll, which we will get stuck into a little bit later on with some interesting results. Now, what happened last week? We'll start with our WNBL Game of the Week on ABC Grandstand, which was the Logan Thunder taking on the West Coast Waves. And this was a remarkable match. After jumping out to a 14-2 head start, Logan, they were completely outplayed for 3.5 quarters by West Coast before surrendering the advantage.
Well, Kayla Francis came out on fire. She scored the first 9 points for Logan, then went a little bit quiet. But I tell you what, West Coast just got right back into the game and never looked back, Darren.
Well, they didn't look back until there were 6 minutes to go. And at that point, they had a 13-point lead. Rahani Cox had 21 points for the match. She was on fire. All their role players were getting involved. And it was a superb team performance. Samantha Norwood was there. But that last 6 minutes, it was like they swapped singlets again or something, and a 19-2 run from Logan to finish the game just took the win away. Oh,
I must say, I felt so badly for West Coast and for Coach Dave Herbert to just watch that lead whittle away and nothing you can do, and their confidence going, and certainly Logan's was just building and building, and what an extraordinary finish to that game.
It really was, and we spoke to Logan's coach Olaf Lang after the game, and as good as Kayla Francis was early, he said the real barometer for their comeback was Sarah Graham. Her ability to hit those clutch shots, and you've talked about it before, that shooter's mentality. Even if you're a little bit cold, you just got to keep putting that thing up.
Well, and she didn't shoot particularly well in the first half, and then come down the stretch though, she just had that calm composure about her, wanted the ball in her hands. You just can't leave her open at any length from that 3-point line, and she nailed some crucial shots to bring them home.
So in the end, a 3-point win I should say, to the Logan Thunder. And after the game, ABC's Rachel Spawn caught up with the game MVP, Kayla Francis.
Kayla, we had our doubts we were going to get that win. That was an amazing comeback.
Yeah, it was. We really got out of that one. We really needed that win, so they were really tough, so I'm glad we got that one.
And you had a fantastic game, 21 points, 10 rebounds, you are averaging double-double. You could see from the start you were determined to bring a lot of energy to the match.
Yeah, I think I started pretty hard and then, died down a bit, but credit to all the girls, we all pulled in and got that win, thank goodness.
And of course you had the great win against Sydney last week, so it was very important to build the momentum with this victory. So I assume that Olaf and Sandy are going to be very relieved.
Yes, I think they will be relieved, but we'll probably go back to the drawing board. We probably should have won by a little bit more, but that's okay. We'll get out on the training field this week and go a bit harder.
And you personally had a great game. Renee Camino a little bit down offensively, but obviously she always contributes in other ways.
Yeah, Renee Camino's having a great season. She just had a bit of a down night tonight, but she played well defensively, so she should be happy with her game.
And we also knew that Sarah Graham would keep taking her shot, and she made some crucial threes down the track.
Yeah, that's just Sarah for you. That's how she plays. It's good.
Well done, Kayla. We really enjoyed that game. It was a great TV game.
Thanks, Connie.
Yeah, we really did enjoy the game, as Rachel mentioned to Kayla, and congratulations to her with yet another double-double from her. But Laura, the upset of the season, without a shadow of a doubt, and another huge comeback, the AIS defeating the Townsville Fire by a solitary point. What can you tell us about this?
Well, Sarah Blickov's had the game of her life, and she had 27 points, but what I'd like to say about Sarah, she's actually been really consistent so far this season. So to have this breakout game isn't that surprising, but the fact that they got over Townsville, you know, Townsville, what, 2 weeks ago were sitting top of the ladder and it just tumbled. It was an extraordinary team effort.
Yeah, Chris Lucas described it as a serious wake-up call, and there was no doubt about that. I'm not sure how we would have slept on Friday night. But you mentioned Sarah Blickhavs. She's been averaging 16 points per game over the last month, to illustrate her point, to illustrate your point. And her coach Phil Brown said, well, she's never seen a shot she didn't like. And you played with her mother, or certainly around the same time as her mother, and her father was also an Australian representative, and she comes from great stock.
Well, she certainly does, and she was at 20s last year, and she is a good shooter, as was her mother. And, you know, again, they came from 14 points down in that third quarter, and what a sensational win for the AIS. Yeah, huge momentum builder for them. Hopefully they can continue and maybe cause a few more upsets later in the season. Also on Friday night was another big match. It was, well, the other two were sort of surprised us a little bit. This one did not surprise us in any way. It was a huge game. The Adelaide Lightning had to go to Sydney and they ended up knocking off the Flames by 3 points. Big result for Adelaide, sends them to the top of the ladder, but Sydney still win the season series between these two sides. One game all, but the head-to-head split goes with the Flames. They do, and I know that Adelaide would have been, first of all, trying to get the win, but then just that extra basket at the end to try and get that split. But what a wonderful performance again from Susie. We talk about her all the time. But I'd like to mention Abby Bishop. I think she had one of her best games of the season. She's just sort of been floating in the background behind Susie, but I think her 22 points and 13 rebounds certainly helped Adelaide in their cause to get that W. Huge games again from Belinda Snell and Alicia Poto, but since we dubbed Amy Denson your girl, she hasn't had a couple of great weeks. She's been down the last couple of weeks, just six points in her last two games. Probably no surprise, really, that the Flames have lost those two. Well, with her output being down a little bit, certainly they need her to increase that. But another thing I'd just like to say about Adelaide, it was Joey Hill's 300th game, and what a great way to celebrate that. So congratulations to Joe Hill. Yeah, absolutely right. Congratulations to Joe. Although I understand she did get a broken nose in the first minute. She came back to play 20-something minutes, so she's pretty tough. Sounds like Joe. Yeah, absolutely. On Saturday night, we had more injury worries. These injuries, though, didn't affect the outcome of the game because Dandenong hosted Bendigo. They escaped with a win, but there were some concerns with Jenna O'Hay not playing after quarter time and also Krista Phillips not playing after half time. It was a remarkable win, really, for the Rangers in those circumstances. Well, Darren, it was. You and I were both at that game, and it was a great game to watch. The wonderful play of Kathleen McLeod, we just couldn't stop talking about it. But you know, the other players that actually had to fill those shoes, I thought Lou Tomlinson did a great job coming in, Tegan Cunningham, Alison Downey played a key role, but really it was the Kath McLeod show in the end. 36 points, half a dozen assists. She was quite remarkable, and I reckon the people around us would have been sick of us mentioning it. Well, Darren, it wasn't only that she scored the 36, it was just the way she went about doing it. End of the shot clock, hand in the face, you know, dribble penetration, three-point shot. It was a complete display. I think she'd want to send that highlight reel to Kerry Graff. Yeah, without a doubt. And Bernie Harrow, a little bit concerned with his side being described by himself as the Jekyll and Hyde of the league at the moment. The final match to round out round 8 in the WNBL was up in Townsville, where the home side got their revenge on a poor old West Coast side who, well, a pretty tough weekend for them, obviously losing narrowly in Logan and then going up to play a Townsville side that had lost to the AIS a couple of nights before. They were never going to be in for a good one there. A pretty comfortable win to Townsville. Let's take a look at the ladder now, and well, the Lightning, they're up on top, Laurie, and you know, it's perhaps what we thought at the start of the season might happen, but it's taken them a while to get there. Peter Buckle pretty happy with his team. They're rolling along well, building confidence and form and chemistry as well, but it's still so congested around that midsection. Well, anybody, you know, it's still anybody's game, of course. It's only halfway through the season. But you're right, Darren. Adelaide have slowly clawed their way to the top, and justifiably, I think they should be there. And Bulleen and Canberra will be looking to reassert themselves in the competition after having some byes last week. It's always interesting coming off a bye, isn't it? Makes it tough. Yeah, well, we know that happened to Logan, and they beat Sydney, so, you know, we'll see what happens. All right, we'll be back with a preview of what's coming up this week in the WNBL in a few minutes' time. But now it's time to head to Catherine Murphy at the news desk.
Thanks for that, guys. This week's Player of the Week is a shared one. It was too close to call. It goes to Susie Bakovic and Kathleen McLeod. Bakovic scored 25 points in Adelaide's win over Sydney Uni at the weekend, while Kathleen McLeod managed 36 in Dandenong's win over Bendigo. I spoke to her during the week about how her time playing abroad has affected her WNBL form.
Yeah, I played one season in Hungary and then a season in France, and I really enjoyed my time over in Europe. It's very different to Australia, and it's a bit of a struggle with the language barrier. But I enjoyed it, and I was happy to come home last season back to Dandenong, and yeah, really happy to be back at Dandenong again now.
How big a struggle were those languages? How difficult is Hungarian?
Hungarian is much more difficult than French. I couldn't really speak it. I could understand a few words here and there, but basically I didn't understand. The coach didn't speak English, so I would just be in my own world, and he would yell at all the other girls and I would have no idea what was going on.
Must have really benefited you because you came back last year and you won an All-Star. What does that mean to you?
It was a real honour to be named in the All-Star 5, especially the WNBL is such a tough league and there's so many good players and especially point guards. So I was really happy to make the All-Star 5 and hopefully this season I can have another good year.
So you're a full-time player, that's got to help your basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really lucky to be able to do what I love full-time and not have to have another job. I'm also quite injury prone, so I'm quite busy with physio and Pilates, and so it really helps that I can have the time to fit everything in.
When you're not doing physio or Pilates, I believe you're a bit of a shopaholic, is that true?
Yes, that could be true. I definitely spend a bit too much money at the shops, but I really enjoy it, so yeah.
Why not? It's all retail therapy. What's
Exactly.
your favourite item, your weakness when you go shopping?
I think my weakness would have to be shoes. Yeah.
What type of shoes? Are we talking heels, casual?
Yeah, I think heels and winter boots. And I like runners as well, yeah.
A shopaholic indeed, a woman after my own heart. Well, moving on, one of the heartbreaking stories of the off-season was the knee injury to Elise Penaluna, which she suffered just a day before she was due to go to France. Davin Scargetta caught up with her to discuss just how she's going and recovering from that knee surgery.
It's a lot of frustration at the moment. You know, 7 weeks after my surgery, and I'm feeling like I never did anything. It's, you know, but I'm not allowed to run. I'm not allowed to jump at the moment. So there's a lot of frustration at the moment. So I'm working with Bowden Babacek, who's a running coach and jumping coach. So, you know, not really allowed to do much of that, but the technique work is being really good. So that's really all I'm doing at the moment. No basketball per se.
Are you following the WNBL? You're missing it a little bit?
Yeah, I've been to a few of the Bulleen games and Bendigo games, and I'm going a bit crazy. I just want to get out on the court and you know, get out there and show them how it's done, kind of thing. But yeah, I've been following it a little bit, and you know, I'm really happy with Townsville. Like, they're just, you know, coming along great, but it's such a strong league. It could be anyone's title this year.
Yeah. I guess talk about how different the league is this year from last year, and the spread of talent seems to have really kind of, it's a big factor. They're not all congregating in one or two particular teams. What have you noticed that's different from when you were playing last year?
Oh, like you say, it's just that everyone has, you know, a fantastic player in their team. Like, there's an opal in almost every team. It's great, you know, there's only a couple, like AIS is down there and West Coast, but everyone is a contender. Like, everyone's just got talent here, there and everywhere, so it's just fantastic. It's so much different to last season.
Finally, we have some injury news just in from Dandenong. Both Jenna O'Hay and Krista Phillips suffered injuries at the weekend. The news is better from Jenna. That was a back complaint that she's been suffering for a while, so they will be cautious, but she is hopeful that she will play. The news is not good though for Krista Phillips. She's suffered a quad injury that most likely will keep her out for 2 weeks, so a big blow to Dandenong. That's it from me. Back to you guys.
Thanks again to Catherine Murphy at the news desk. All right, Laura, let's get stuck into round 9 and a preview. Only 3 weeks to go until the Christmas break and some pivotal matches coming up, starting with our ABC match of the week on Friday night at the Veneto Club. The Bulleen Boomers hosting the Sydney Uni Flames.
And Darren, this is the first time these two teams have met. Some teams have played each other twice already and they know head-to-head and splits and all that. This is the first time these two teams played, number 2 versus number 3.
Now, we know about Bulleen's strengths. It's clearly Sam Richards at point guard and obviously Liz Cambage in the middle, and obviously some great role players around them, and Rachel Jarry, Alice Koenig amongst them. But what about Sydney? You know, they've got the all-star trio in their side and everything revolves around them. How do you see this game playing out? They're so different.
Well, I see some real crucial matchups in this game, Darren, and certainly starting off with the point guards, Sammy Richard and Elisa Poto, that'll be massive. Then I think Rachel Jarry may take Belinda Snell. You've got Jerry, one of the feistiest, fieriest, great defender over one of the great shooters out there. Yep. I also think Jerry may spend a few minutes on Denson. Denson, I think, you know, if you can get somebody that's a bit smaller guarding her, is probably better than somebody that's got the height, because she's so versatile and can move a lot. So some really interesting matchups. And I was talking to Michelle Timms, and she's a little bit worried, as she usually is. But she thinks that the rings at the Veneto Club are very shooter-friendly, so she's a bit worried about Snell going off.
Yeah, and well, Belinda Snell didn't have a great week last week. She had 20-odd points, but 0 for 6 from the three-point line. So she can be a bit inconsistent at times, or has been this season. But when she gets hot, she gets hot. And it's the league's best offence in Bulleen against, so far, the league's best defence in Sydney. So it's just going to be a great game.
Well, it will. And this will be a real test for Sydney this weekend. You know, they've lost 2. They certainly don't want to lose any more and tumble down that ladder. So this is the first big game of their weekend.
Well, if you're in Melbourne, make sure you try and get down to the Veneto Club on Friday night. And if you're not, make sure you tune into our coverage on Saturday afternoon from 1 o'clock right around the country. Also, a pivotal game is in Townsville, where the hosts are hosting, of course they are, that's a silly sentence, Laurie, but anyway, you can pick me up on that later, the Logan Thunder in the Queensland battle. The first time these sides met back in round 4, Townsville got the points pretty comfortably by 12 points. It's the second of 3 matchups for the season, and gee, Townsville need another scalp, don't they?
Well, Townsville do, so do Logan. Logan
they
want
do
to win this game to send the series into that final 3rd game. You wouldn't say either team are in brilliant form. No. Logan just scraping through with West Coast, and then Townsville losing to the AIS. So neither of them are coming in being really sharp and focused and ready to play. But I just think Townsville will have the edge given their home crowd, where they sit, and just the fact that Logan's got to travel there. Yeah, and they are a bit of an enigma, the Logan Thunder, aren't they? You never know quite, well, what Forrest Gump's mother said, you never know quite what you're going to get in that box of chocolates, Laurie. West Coast Waves hosting the Canberra Capitals. The Waves got pummeled by the Capitals last time they met, but they do seem to be in better form. Having run Bulleen pretty close 2 weeks ago, and we thought that might have been a product of Bulleen having one eye on the Adelaide game 2 days later, but they franked that form in Logan by really pushing them in a game they should have won. Is there any chance for West Coast to beat Canberra? Well, they'd certainly be on a high, even though they had lost, and full of confidence. But Canberra having that bye, I'm sure will have spent that time to tweak a few things. I'm not sure if Michelle Cozier's back on the court yet. She's very close, and I would imagine if she was, they'd try and get a few minutes into her. But Canberra just can't afford to let that one go. No, they're only the 3 wins so far this season for the Capitals, and they've got a tough couple of weeks coming up, and also a little bit later this weekend they've got to go to Adelaide. We'll talk about that game in just a moment. The Sydney Uni Flames, after playing Bulleen on Friday night, have the tough ask of going into the Nonga Dome and taking on the Rangers, Laurie, and we know how tough that can be. I'll throw a stat at you. This season, teams in the second game of their road doubles are just 4-10. It's very, very tough to get that win in the second game. Why am I not surprised that you threw a stat at me, Darren? Certainly coming into Dandenong, to me, the big question mark is the fitness of Jenna and certainly Krista Phillips as well. Yep. That makes a massive, if they're in there and they're healthy and ready to go, I think it'll be a tough ask for Sydney on that second double. But if they're not, well, then I think it's a really good shot for Sydney. And the other thing, as brilliant as Kath McLeod was last week, we can't forget that in playing Bendigo, Christy Harrower only played 18 minutes, and there were times at the defensive end where she couldn't guard Kathleen because just the lateral movement was just a little bit too tough with that Achilles problem, and so Kathleen was really able to make the most of it. I'm not sure she'll get it quite so easy against Alicia Poto and the Flames. Yeah, very true, Darren, and you know, as some of her shots were against overhands and that'll be a really hard performance to repeat, but certainly give her credit for what she did.
Yeah, absolutely. She was brilliant, don't get me wrong. Again, this is the first time these sides are meeting of two this year, and you can catch all the action on that one either at the Dandenong Stadium or on WNBL radio live around the country on Saturday night. On Sunday, we have two games to finish off. The AIS hosting the Bendigo Spirit, Sunday at 1 o'clock up there at the AIS Training Hall. And, well, talk about sides being on a high, Laurie. They'll certainly be, but, gee, Bendigo. We said Townsville couldn't afford to lose one last week and Logan couldn't afford to lose one. The Spirit are in the same position.
Well, talking to Christy Harrower after their loss to Dandenong, she was sort of hoping to be able to not play against the Institute. I'm sure her physios desperately don't want her to play. But now she's going, you know, we need this win. And look at, they just won a game. They're feeling good about it. So, you know, I might just have to suit up and you know, see how I go. Yeah, without a doubt at all. And then the final game for the round, Adelaide Lightning hosting the Canberra Capitals. And Adelaide will go into this game as heavy favourites, but they only just beat the Capitals earlier in the season. It was by 4 points at a time when Canberra weren't playing particularly well. And it's interesting. Maybe there might be another upset brewing here. Well, the only challenge to me that Adelaide have is to make sure that they're mentally still really sharp and focused and they don't take this game for granted, knowing that Canberra's coming off of the West Coast game and they're sitting near the bottom of the ladder. If they want to keep up that top spot, they have to win every game. They have to win these games. Yeah, Adelaide Championship, I should say Canberra Championship captain Eleanor Sharp during the week saying, beware of Carrie Graff and the underdogs. Yeah, so absolutely. Yeah, we've got to watch out for them. All right, Laurie, now, I don't know if you've got on the WNBL Facebook page yet, and firstly, we need you to get on there and like it if you haven't already done that. And everyone at home, yes, get on there and like the Facebook page. But also, have you answered this fan poll, which is, what is your favourite WNBL club? Well, seeing as we're supposed to be seen as fairly neutral, Darren, okay. I've noticed it and I've seen the poll and I've watched it with interest, but I haven't clicked it. Okay, all right. Well, I understand the Bulleen Boomers are actually way out in front at the moment. I'm not sure if that's because they got the most fans or whether it's because they've just got the most people out there in Facebook land. But make sure you jump on the WNBL Facebook page and like it, and also like your favourite team. Why not? Absolutely. It's a bit of a fun poll to see. Absolutely. Who's got the most support? And also follow us on Twitter. Make sure you correspond with us and the WNBL right throughout the season and get involved with us on WNBL iTV. Thanks again for your company, Laurie. Looking forward to another great round 9. Oh, as always, Darren, can't wait. We'll be back next week. We'll see you then.